Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this episode. I wanted to define what my boundaries are. Boundaries can be healthy and good in a way, but then what are the boundaries that also limit me and keep me small?
Mm.
Our guest, oh yeah, Megan Anderson said that, who happens to be very close to our guest today, who's an influential person in the mortgage banking industry, a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast, go back many years, but also more than that, a pioneer, a maverick, a uh, Emersonian, a nomad, a leader who's actually decided to something we're going to get into today, explore not only America but apparently Canada in a van, not by
Yes.
any river but by a lake. Currently, client relations at Highway, which is an unbelievable company, impacts so many people in a positive way. Education, enthusiasm, leadership. Megan Anderson, thank you for coming on the Culture Matters podcast. Long awaited. Good to see you.
Long awaited. I am so happy that we could finally put this together.
And I was preparing for this, and I stumbled on this interview about your philosophical expression here, right? This journey. And
Mhm.
I love this quote. I just want to reread it for the audience. I don't want to ask you about it. I wanted to define what my boundaries are. Boundaries can be healthy and good in a way, but then what are the boundaries that also limit me and keep me small? What do you mean by that?
Mm. Well, to start off where boundaries can be healthy, I think having boundaries allows other people to love you in the way that you need to be loved and show up in the way that you need them to show up. And so it's important for us to define what our boundaries are in that sense. But then there's also the boundaries that we have self created that are, maybe based off of our past and maybe things that served us in the past but are no longer serving us. But if we don't create awareness or we don't question them, we're never going to grow past them.
Hmm. Now, was this an epiphany? Was it mentorship? Was it personal development? Was it you've traveled so much and spoken to so many crowds? Where this it was a revelation?
Um, I think it's something that kind of just formulated throughout the years. Specifically, I think that it kind of surrounded multiple areas of my life, one being on a romantic level. I feel like everyone that I was romantically getting involved with had kind of a similar pattern to it, where, I was just wanting more than I was getting, but I wasn't really showing up. I hadn't defined what those boundaries were, and I hadn't communicated with others what those were to allow them to step in and love me that way. And
Hmm.
also when it came to, my career, in the beginning of my career, I would say that I was very much a people pleaser, saying yes to everything. I had zero boundaries. And on a
Hmm.
level that was really good because I needed to get in, right? I needed to get my feet wet. I I needed to prove myself in a way. But over time, that led to complete burnout, right? And not really structuring my time in the most valuable way. And so defining those boundaries in my career sense was really impactful to me as well. And listen, I'm still defining what my boundaries are. I'm still learning them. I don't know if we ever fully learn them. I think they're one of those things that just continually evolves, but we get courageous enough and we get vulnerable enough to know ourselves and look at ourselves and our truth and accept that.
Hmm. What what advice do you have for what women in professional and with professional ambitions that are starting off in their career? That because I feel in some sense I think you're clearly marking, creating like the tip of the spear in a sense, a tip of a spear. Like, what are the questions that young professional women should be asking themselves when it comes to balanced career success? Because it seems like it's happened very quickly
Yeah.
for you.
I mean, I would say ask questions like what aspects of your career light you up? What aspects give you more energy than take from you? What what types of interactions and things that you're completing and projects drain you and why? Right? Just I think the biggest part of life is getting curious.
Mm.
I think it leads to so many things of awareness.
I have a question about even my question. Is that does that undermine even your pursuit in the sense that I asked, like, it's almost like I created a boundary just around just saying, hey, what advice do you have for young women listening to this? Does that have, do you think like a defeating aspect to it, out of my own ignorance, right? Like I'm just thinking out loud, but right, I'm asking you about women. Like, do you feel that you should have a voice beyond
Oh,
just that, or is
100%.
it?
100%. So I think it's important for us to talk about, right? Women, especially in the space that we're in, they have been getting a lot more of a voice throughout the years. But there's one aspect that is limiting to it. Hate is a very strong word. I dislike when people paint the color on it and the aspect of women don't have a voice and we need to have a voice and we need to speak up. You and I are both friends with Christine Beckwith, and I think she's my
Yeah.
favorite person when it comes to addressing women's voices in the industry because she gives women a voice in particular and talks about how powerful it is to have a voice. But the entire time, it's not just about women need a voice and men have constantly pushed us down, right? It's celebrating
Hmm.
the men in our life. It's celebrating everybody that has made an influence and an impact on our life. But I think as women, just in a societal nature, we have been, especially when it comes to careers and especially the space that we're in, I think that it we've been pushed down years and years on having a voice and creating a voice and establishing boundaries and being okay with having boundaries. Um, and I think that it is important to talk about it. Yeah.
Hmm. For those that don't know where you are in Wyoming and what decisions you've made, can you expand on that a little bit? Because I kind of jumped right into the deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like not
I don't
everyone
know
that
where you want
listens
me to
to
start from. Where
not
do you want me
everyone
to
that
start
listens to the
from?
Culture Ash podcast knows it's their first time on the show, knows
Yes.
yeah,
So
knows that you're on the road and you've been on the road in
I am on a
this
journey. I'm on 100 days of van life so far. I am committed to at least doing this for a year. Now it's not fully like 365 days continuous. Like next week, I leave for a month-long trip to Norway to explore my heritage.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm really excited about. So I've been trying to define what this journey actually is into, just something a little bit more concrete and able to understand and build upon. And I've narrowed it down, I think, to this journey for me is about exploring the four core relationships of my life. And
Hmm.
that is the relationship to myself. So boundaries does play a part in that. My relationship to others and community, my relationship to nature, and the relationship to the unknown.
Wow. Let's start with the self. Well,
Yes.
you mentioned boundaries. Are there any other aspects to the self that you'd want to elaborate on for our audience? If for those that are thinking, wait a second, Van, 100 days, I wanted to do that once and never
Yes.
did it.
I definitely recommend that you do it. This was a dream that I had over a decade ago, back when I was kind of just becoming kind of an entrepreneurial, like honing in on my entrepreneurial spirit. I was a personal trainer back then. I had left the gym, and I had this vision, this idea of being the traveling trainer. And it's when meetups were really big. And so I wanted to just travel all over and do meetups and do workouts with people. And I look back on it now and I'm very happy that it didn't work out at that point in time because I really truly believe that it was supposed to happen in my life right now. But part of the reason that I decided on the van was because I was missing and craving that kind of entrepreneurial spirit that I had kind of like just kind of misstepped out of alignment, I think. And it's not even just the entrepreneurial aspect, but it's just the aspects of myself that over the years I just kind of pushed down because I was taking on this different persona. But you can't
Mm,
do that for that long. Like there comes a point in time in your life where if you're out of alignment, sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you. And it started to catch up to me. I just started realizing that I was a lot more negative. I was having issues with sustainable energy levels. I was I was drinking more than I wanted to. I was just not taking ownership of my life anymore. And I was questioning what my passion was and what my purpose was and what I was even like, what is the point of life? And I know that sounds kind of dramatic because I really like, I'm truly grateful for everything that I've experienced in my life. And by no means have I gone through a lot of the struggles that other people have gone through. But I think it's almost human nature for us to go through these periods of questioning, right? And I think it's healthy and I think that it's good for us to do it. So it's deep, but it's been quite an exciting journey and I'm truly these 100 days. So I've never been baptized. And to me, my greatest connection with God has been in nature, and it always is because I feel like that's where you can see the interconnectedness of all of us, not just humans, but the world and animals and nature and all of it. And I got to tell you, my spirituality these 100 days has blown me away more times than I can even count. I am stunned at the things that I'm experiencing on a spiritual level. It is wow.
solitude.
Solitude. Wow, you learn a lot in solitude. Yes. It
I
is
want to read you something.
yes, please.
This is from Walden, Henry David Thoreau. The chapter is page 104, Solitude.
Mm,
This is a delicious evening when the whole body is one sense
mm,
and imbibes delight through every pore. I go and come with a strange liberty in nature, a part of herself. As I walk along the stony shore of the pond in my shirt sleeves, though it is cool as well as cloudy and windy, and I see nothing special to attract me. All the elements are unusually congenial to me. The bullfrogs trump to usher in the night, and the note of the whirl of the whippoorwill is borne on the rippling wind from over the water. Sympathy with the fluttering alder and popular leaves almost takes away my breath. Yet, like the lake, my serenity is rippled but not ruffled.
mm.
These small waves raised by the evening wind are as remote from storm as the smooth, reflecting surface. Though it is now dark, the wind still blows and roars in the wood. The waves still dash, and some creatures lull the rest with their notes. The repose is never complete. The wildest animals do not repose, but seek their prey now. The fox, the skunk, and the rabbit now roam the fields and woods without fear. They are nature's watchmen, links which connect the days of animated life.
That's beautiful.
Is that what you're living?
That's what I'm living. Yeah. Yeah, you in solitude. I mean that really hit me because in solitude you have this level of awareness that you just wouldn't have if you were not in complete solitude. And you notice the little things like that. You notice the way the light shines at different moments. You notice patterns in the world that you wouldn't notice otherwise. You notice not just patterns in the world, but patterns in your own thoughts. And you also notice all of the interconnectedness of it that really captured all of it. Thanks for that quote.
Well, for this, the audience, this is so what you're, I want to highlight what you're doing because what you're doing. So this book I just read from page 104, chapter Solitude. Henry David Thoreau built his small cabin on the shore of Walden Pond in 1845.
Mm.
For the next 2 years, he lived there as simply as possible, seeking, quote, the essential facts of life and
Yes.
learning to eliminate the unnecessary details, material and spiritual, that intrude upon our happiness. He described his experiences in Walden using vivid, forceful prose that transforms his reflections on nature into richly evocative metaphors to live by.
Mm.
This is one of the more classical works in our whole culture. It's really impacted. So, for those that haven't ever heard of it, that are listening, that like what you're doing is part of American history, and I think
That's
it should
exciting.
be highlighted. It's pretty awesome. And I guess, if he had been around now or what vans didn't even exist at that time, so his option was to go
Mhm.
buy a cabin near a lake. Um,
I will say, one thing, just as you were reading that I'm also experiencing in the van is you I have like 39 items in my closet. Now, I used to have like 105 pairs of shoes.
Whoa.
Okay. And you really realize when you're in that limited space, you don't need that much. Like, you really don't need that much. And you do start to realize what is a necessity, what you don't need these other things to make you happy. And even so, like, even when I was stuck in that world and I needed the latest red bottom shoes, or, what just came out from Lululemon, or that I needed the latest iPhone that came out, looking back on it now, like, yes, I still like those things. I still like quality items and things, but it's almost like I was wanting them to get this short little ping of happiness that just, I mean, it would be gone in minutes and then you would need
Mhm.
the next thing. And it just became this ever revolving, you just couldn't keep up with it ever. It was exhausting, purely exhausting. And I'm so happy now with like my 5 shirts and my 2 jackets. you know,
Wow.
you don't need anything else. You
Wow.
really don't. You don't even
How,
need hot water. I
how
mean,
does that
listen,
work?
it's nice,
Yeah. Oh,
but it's
so
nice.
does that wake you? I mean, that wakes you up, I would think you're
Oh
saying.
yeah. I mean, when I'm like here, I'm at a lake, I would just go bathe in the lake if I was there.
Wow.
I do get to a gym and like enjoy a hot shower at least once a week, which I very much appreciate. That's the other thing with this lifestyle. The level of appreciation that you have for the
Hmm.
smallest of things. And it's crazy how they just appreciation is key to
How,
happiness.
how has it affected your productivity?
It's been very helpful. One thing that I really, really like about it is I've structured my time a lot better because I find it very important to, well, I have to shut off my inverter at one point in time, right? And the inverter is what runs everything. It runs the Starlink so that I'm able to get on this podcast here right now. But I've noticed, one, if I have to shut that thing off. It impacts my sleep. I'm positive of that now. And so I shut it off. And knowing that I'm going to shut it off, I've gotten in a habit where at 8 p.m., and I wake up at 4:30. So I'm like a grandma. I go to bed early. But at 8 p.m.,
Ah.
I'm shutting that thing off. And knowing that and knowing what I need to get done, I've just been so much better at structuring my day. And then not only that, I think my energy levels are a lot more sustained because I go from the craziness of work meetings, of sales follow-up calls, etc., to stepping outside in nature where no one is, or there's very limited people, when I go back into that place of solitude. It's kind of like meditating. When you take a couple minutes to meditate or do some breath work, it's a very similar kind of experience.
Hmm. Um, how has it impacted your speaking? Because you're still speaking, correct?
I am still speaking, yes.
Have you
um,
noticed positive effects in your oratorical presence?
One thing that I haven't done yet that I would like to do more of is sharing a lot more of this story. I haven't really done that from stage as of yet. I think I'm at the point now where I share what I'm comfortable with, but a lot of it I'm still figuring out, and that
But
hasn't
what
evolved
about
over to that
indirect
aspect.
consequences? The reason I ask that is if your life is if you're if there's a level up of in within authenticity
Mm-hmm.
as an individual, has that had any crossover indirectly or even on uh, the stage presence?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if it has had. I mean, on some level, I don't know if like what
Because you
I've
speak in
gone
front of a lot of
through.
crowds now
I think
still,
I
right?
speak in front of a lot of crowds, yes, but it depends on, what the topic is
Okay.
and how that kind of comes out. I think that I've always been somewhat of a pretty confident person. I do think now, so more that I'm a lot just okay with myself and in love with myself in a way and accepting of myself. And I do think that in turn definitely shows up on stage. I mean, it shows up in my actions, in everything that I do, actually, Um, I'm just a lot more confident in myself and who I am, and I'm okay with who I am. I'm not trying to be somebody else anymore. And yeah, I guess it has. I guess it has when you put it that way. Yeah.
What about someone that's thinking that, oh shit, am I trying to be somebody else? What do you say to that person that feels stuck?
I would say get curious. That I think that's the biggest thing. If you don't get curious, you're not going to get that level of awareness. One thing that I'm reading a book right now called The Way of Integrity by
Oh, wow.
Martha Beck something. And she has a lot of journal entries in there that really have you question a lot of things. And I also see a therapist, and we've been really working on, because I'm still working through this. And one thing that we've been working on is if there's ever something that kind of makes you feel a little off, like maybe your stomach starts to hurt a little bit, or maybe you notice that there's like a little bit of anxiety there, but you can't quite place it, is just to ask yourself, does this align with my integrity and my values? And sometimes that
Wow.
can be a very challenging question, but it actually becomes very, very clear. Like I was supposed to go to dinner with somebody the other night, but it wasn't feeling right in my body. And even though it's uncomfortable because I didn't want to let this person down. And at this point in time, it was last second canceling this. So I felt bad, right? I felt rude. I felt like this is not the right thing to do. I should just go. But I have to trust that feeling. And when you trust that feeling, you learn to trust yourself at the end of the day. Right. And so that's
Interesting.
one thing that I've been doing that I think would help anyone that's maybe sitting in that situation is anytime that you get a little pang of, I don't know, or maybe you don't even associate it with that. I swear my stomach aches that I used to get years and years ago, that was me not listening to my intuition and my integrity. When I look back on it now, it seems so obvious.
Maybe your body was holding on to the anxiety.
Yes, if you're not being truthful with yourself, it's going to come out sideways in different ways. Whether that's stomach aches or, rashes or whatever the case may be, health issues. I'm a firm believer that oftentimes it's not so much, I mean, it's an accumulation of things, but I think deep down it is, and I think about this went back in my personal training days as well, the struggles that people would deal with when it came to their weight and how they felt about themselves and all of that. It's You're not being truthful with yourself. You're not living in alignment, and that's going to come out sideways.
In the past, would you say that you would have yes
Yeah,
or yeah or appeased?
100%.
So you're living in the other and not the self,
Mm-hmm.
and that wow, it's the literal like I can't I just had a conversation before this with Glenn Yopis, who it was like the same conversation,
Wow.
just in a different context. and I have to
Right.
send it to you. Anyone listening to this episode, go listen to that, and oh my God, I kind of speechless right now. Yeah, since what about the people that are afraid to listen to that voice?
I'm afraid to listen to that voice a lot of times as well. You got to trust it though. You have to trust it. There might have been a point in time where listening to that voice served you, right? Maybe you weren't in a safe situation. Let's say, as a
Hmm.
kid, something you weren't in a safe situation. And so you not speaking your mind, being a people pleaser, doing whatever you were told was good for your survival, right? And maybe it served you for a lot of years, but it's probably not serving you now, right? And I think it's just you got to
Hmm.
start with these small things, like not going to dinner with this person the other night. That was a very small thing, but it built trust in myself, right? And the more that I do that, the more trust that I have in myself and the easier that it's going to get to listen to that, to understand that, and move forward from that perspective.
Wow. So, what is the plan for 25? Is there a somewhat of a coordinate, a map, an idea of geographically where you mentioned Norway. That's kind of
Yes. Norway is
corollary to this.
fun. That goes back to my relationship with my community and kind of self because I'm exploring my heritage. I didn't realize that I had so much Norwegian in me. I always
Ah,
thought I was just German and Irish, and I'm not. So I'm exploring that. But
did you
what
do
I'm
the
really
23 and
doing,
Me?
I did my heritage similar, yeah. But
Wow.
what I'm doing right now is I'm actively creating what I call my limit list. And these are all things that tie back into those four core relationships that I'm exploring. And essentially, I'm just crossing off my limit list. I'm creating it and crossing it off.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just did the 23 and Me this year, and I thought I was Italian my whole life, but I'm 99.7% Northwestern,
What?
yeah, Scandinavia, like Irish.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's
You should be going to
unbelievable.
Norway too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like basically Duran that was my biological mother's name, Duran.
Mm-hmm.
And she's Irish. And yeah, I have Scandinavia. And well, are you going to is that Oslo and to see the lights? Is the lights and
I'm
everything?
starting off in Oslo, which is the capital. Then I'm taking I'm staying there for like a week. So I'm going for a whole month. It's so amazing to be able to work remote. So I'm going there for like a
Wow.
week. Then
Yeah.
I'm getting on a train and I'm going from Oslo to Bergen, which is all through the mountaintops. I reached out to a few people that I share DNA matches with. I'm hoping they respond to me because I would love to meet up with them. I think that that would be really interesting. And then from there, I'm going on a little kind of cruise to go from Bergen to Tromsø, and I'm probably saying that wrong. From there, I'm renting a car and I'm going as far north as I can without having to get on a boat or a ferry. And I have a little cabin. Well, I wouldn't say it's little. It's actually bigger. I'm probably going to feel a little bit lonely in it,
Ah,
but it has a sauna. That's why I got it. And I'm basically just going to work and I'm going to get really creative and be by myself and, explore that level of awareness that you find only in solitude. So,
what's the response been? Being in, for those that don't know, you're heavily involved in the banking industry as an educator and an influencer and a leader, representing a company that provides education to help people be more productive, more competent
mm-hmm.
right, what's the reception been?
People have loved this journey, even if they could never picture themselves living in a van or doing these crazy things. I think that on some level, it's it's what I feel like we have lost as humans is back in the day, you could be an explorer. Like that could be a career, right? You could be an explorer. And nowadays, that doesn't really exist. But I think that it's this human element that we all share, this archetype that we all share, and we don't really get to express as much anymore. So people have been so supportive and curious and living through me, and honestly it's been a little bit scary to be as vulnerable as I am with some of my posts on Facebook specifically. That's where I
Nice.
kind of do like a daily post. And every time I am vulnerable, the community and has just fully supported me and been there. And, sometimes I've gotten a little down on myself, like, you know, is what I'm doing helping other people, inspiring other people? And it has been. And I think that that's really an incredible kind of outcome of me exploring myself at the same time is I'm
Is
giving
there a
people.
community like that you've connected with or inadvertently that of those that l- have chosen this lifestyle even beyond what your plan is, like full time, or
I
have
mean, I
you?
haven't connected with anyone that does this kind of similar lifestyle yet. I do want to go to like a van meetup one of these days.
Yeah.
I have talked to a few other people through like Instagram that live in their vans full time, but I have not met up with any of them yet. I will be very curious too. And community is one of the biggest things for me because I just feel like when I wasn't being true to myself, my community wasn't actually people that I would choose to align myself with for the most part. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so like finding community now that I'm a lot more clear on what my values are and what it means for me to live a life of integrity and alignment, I'm finding that the people that are coming into my community just give me so much more energy. And that's really incredible to see. But I will say it has been a little bit of a struggle being in the van and being so alone at the same time and constantly going to a new state. And sometimes when you get in these very kind of self-reflective states, you naturally get a little bit, you go inward, right? So pushing myself out of that is something I definitely want to work on a little bit more. And I think is really valuable and an important aspect for me this next year.
I believe I've been in a metaphorical van since about 2019.
Yeah. Tell me
Well,
about
yeah,
it.
stopped speaking
Yep.
and I just read and worked with our client partners and have been thinking and listening
Mm-hmm.
because all you can do in solitude is listen.
Right.
And I've been listening, and now I'm ready to go back to civilization.
Yes.
And I'm excited about it. I think what you're doing is unbelievable, is amazing. Um,
Thanks.
there's lots of ways to es es find escape the superficiality,
Mm-hmm.
the overindulgence on aestheticism, vanities. There's lots of ways to do it. I had to get away from personally, uh, because I never listened. I just spoke,
Right.
and it was better for who I am today for me to kind of. And now I'm
Yeah.
coming. Yeah, so I'm excited to
And
see the
you have energy
metamorphosis.
now. Yeah.
It's different because I
Yeah.
did talk twice since I was ready at Christine's event and on a top contractor school, and it, I was the feedback I received was that it's just Jay, but more. It's just better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Personal
that. That's
development is such a
beautiful.
broad category.
Yeah.
It's you're exploring your personal development. I mean, it could be invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
The stage isn't going anywhere either. I
No,
mean,
it's always there.
yeah, it's always there, and the bar is low. So as Buffett and Munger would say, we like to step over bars. We don't jump very high. So
Yes.
I'm excited. What about the book?
Well, I've been writing every single day. I'm one of those people where I try and figure things out before I start them. I try and complete them before they're started. And I'm trying not to do that with this because this is a story, this is my journey, and it's going to unfold how it's going to unfold. All I'm trying to do is stay diligent with being consistent right now. And so for me, that involves just writing every single day. And I've been trying to learn and master more so the craft of storytelling.
Mm.
And I think that'll help me a lot with my speaking engagements as well. The more that I learn and practice that. And, I've always written, to be honest, I was always like, as a little girl, I always had a journal ever since I was in kindergarten. I have multiple boxes. It's the one thing that I've never been able to throw away over all the places that I move is my books and my journals. And, but before it was very just, you kind of just word vomit all over the page. And now maybe I give myself a 15-minute time limit where I actually try and tell a story. And it's been helping. I think that, naturally this is just going to continue to unfold. And I'm very excited about being in Norway because my work hours with MBS Highway won't start until 3 p.m. And so I'm going to have the
Whoa.
gift of having very slow mornings to be able to go inward, reflect, and write for
Mm.
hours. I'm really excited about it.
What are you reading?
Well, right
You
now
should have
I'm
mentioned that
reading,
way, the way of, I wrote it
yes.
down, but it was a
Let
book.
me tell you who writes that because and I just started listening to this one. It's called The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. And I've been really enjoying that one. I'm kind of like an Audible book person for the most part. I love Dark Nights of the Soul, though. Like, if you are going through a rough time or you're questioning yourself, Dark Nights of the Soul by Thomas More is
Wow.
so, so good. Or The Untethered Soul by
Oh,
Michael
I like that
Singer.
author.
So good. Yes. So I love all of those. Those are like
Yeah, if you
some of
like
the ones
that,
that I constantly re-listen to as well.
this Brennan Manning's, this is a great one too.
Yeah.
It's called The Ragamuffin Gospel, but same author as The Untethered Soul, I think. Isn't that
Oh,
Manning?
no,
Or am
this
I just
guy's
totally
Michael.
twisted?
Yeah, no, this
Oh,
guy's
my
Michael
bad.
Singer.
Thought it was the same author.
Oh, I'll have to check that out though. I've been looking for a new book actually to bring on my journey to Norway.
Yeah, well,
So,
maybe that was meant to be. This is a great deep, deep book. Um, wow. Um, how about 2025? Is there a goal? Or would you say that would that go against the philosophy that you're living out in some sense? Or do you think there's
eh,
an
I,
you know what I'm saying?
I think it's good to have goals. They keep you disciplined and like constantly moving forward. And I think it's good
Like
to be
there's
able to
what we
measure
do and there's who
progress,
we
but
are.
right, right. Um, my kind of vision for this next year is I would like to have a draft of this book done. I really think that that's possible. Plus, it's going to be kind of, I'm already 100 days into this journey. It's kind of, the journey is going to last longer than 365 days. Let's be real. This is a lifelong journey, but enough to be able to put into something that is manageable and hopefully be able to impact others and um, give them a little bit of courage to do something similar. I definitely would like to come out with a book by
Yeah.
this next year.
What
I
would
think
you
that
call
would
it?
be incredible. Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I've just been writing. I don't know what I would call it. Well, no, I'd call it limit list probably. It is my limit list that I'm crossing off. And I secured that name on YouTube. It's available on YouTube. It's like it's good to go. It's locked and loaded.
I already know who you need to publish it with.
Oh
Done.
yeah.
Yeah, unless you have one in mind.
I don't have anyone.
Yeah, this is this thing. Hey, what can you share? Would you be willing to share what's on the limit list, or is that very personal?
I can share some things. I'm
Okay.
still, still writing out what is on my limit list.
Wow.
Constantly, I think part of it is what are the questions that come up when you get curious, right? And then that can be included in the limit list. But one thing that is on the limit list and why my hair is brown right now is because ever since I was in middle school, I've been dyeing my hair blonde based off of the belief that that's what society wants. That makes me more attractive. That's what society tells me that they want. So constantly, I was telling myself since middle school, basically, you're not enough the way that you are. How would I know if
Mm.
I'm enough the way that I am when I don't even know what my natural hair color looks like and haven't known since I was in middle school? Right. So this is where you constantly question these beliefs. So one thing on the limit list is not dyeing my hair for a year and not getting my nails done because I live in a van. Let's be honest. I don't need that. So
Wow.
it's stuff like that.
Have there been women that have reached out to you?
I don't think I've been as super vocal about this whole journey as of
Yo, well,
yet,
you're
but
damn well going
they're
to get that after this because I think it's very, it comes across as to me. I mean, I'm not, I don't, I can't, I haven't experienced that in that way. Actually,
yeah,
my own way with my bodybuilding, definitely, which is why I don't look that way anymore. But
right.
yeah,
I
I,
feel that. It
maybe
was
after
back in
this,
those days
like
too.
women, women,
A few women have reached out to me, just thanking me for sharing my journey and being one girl really made me kind of tear up the other day. She's like, when I think of you, I think of the word courageous. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. It's very, very sweet. But I haven't shared too much of what's on the limit list yet because it's just kind of I'm just documenting without having to have the fear of judgment so much at the present time or having to know what it has to be because it doesn't have to be anything, right? It's my journey, it's my experience. It doesn't have
sure.
to be anything. And I think
So,
putting that pressure on it kind of defeats the purpose of it a little bit, but at the same time I know that this is a great message to share and get out there simply because I don't think that I would have the growth that I have in my life had I not had people to look up to, right? By people doing these crazy things, these courageous things, it gives you permission to do your own crazy thing. And that's why it's important to share. So I will be sharing it, but I will be sharing it in a limited form and fashion for the time being as I kind of navigate what it even is.
there's like for people watching on YouTube, there was because we're on YouTube now, there was like this shadow. I thought it was like a person for a second. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Someone's
yeah, you're
coming into
gone. Yeah, I
the
was like freaking out for a second. Uh,
van. Get the
no,
knock.
I'm inspired because I remember what I uh was like when I was addicted to testosterone
Mm,
and because I was 18, 19, 20, 21, put myself in the worst environment, which is owning a gym and that world and which we
yeah,
share.
yeah,
And man, I'm proud of who I am today, all these 10 years later, having let go of and work through some of the things, frankly, that our audience knows me as who they know me today.
right,
They would not, I don't think they'd know who that guy was.
yeah,
So I think it's inspired, like, reinventing ourselves or revealing ourselves.
mhm,
Is it a reinvention or is it a revealing? And at what level? Like, do we ever fully reach our potential? Well,
it's
but we better
evolving.
try. Yeah.
Yeah, we better
What is
try. Yeah,
authentic? What is authenticity? I don't think it's finite.
yeah,
It's an iterative process, and it's scary and it takes like separation from things. And yeah, it's exciting. I think that's some of the things that come up for me, even in a different context. Listen, when I was doing what I was doing to my body for others,
mhm,
I was getting incentivized to continue being juvenile
yeah.
in that way. And so many mistakes that come from that. Things I am guilt, shame, the aware of, like mistakes I made,
Right,
partnerships
but
that
at the
screwed
same
up.
time, had you not gone through all of that, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are today.
Well, and then some of it feels like, you know, I should pray more because or something because, you know, yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, but it wasn't alone. you know? Even
Right.
like when I was in that ATV, I was paralyzed in September 22nd, 2017. I haven't really told the story much,
Yeah, I don't know this
but
story.
yeah, well, I stopped talking, right? Like right around after we met, because I did the thing with Barry at Mastermind and a couple other
Mhm.
things. I stopped talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was paralyzed permanently.
What?
Yeah, when I
Wow.
met Jenna, I couldn't even move my hand.
What?
Yeah, this is
How
before we
how
met.
did this how'd you you're good now?
Miracle,
Yeah. Wow.
because ATV crushed me. It
Oh.
was like the perfect timing. I had stopped doing some, I had managed to create some degree of boundaries
Mm-hmm.
to open up a space, and then the universe took me even deeper into hell.
Yep.
Nietzsche said, "The tree that grows to heaven's roots grow all the way down to hell." It's one of my favorite quotes.
Mm.
But yeah, a lot of people don't know that, and you know what? I wouldn't share that, especially on a first time interview, if you weren't so authentic.
Oh, I
But
appreciate
your
that.
truth, yeah, you help other people reveal the truth when you're truthful.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Powerful.
know exactly, or I believe I can identify with what with this because we're on the same journey. I mean, I
Yeah.
became a
We all are.
motivational speaker because I didn't feel heard and I was talented and egotistical. This is me. I'm not talking for you there. And it came naturally, and and I got myself into all sorts of problems. So hopefully people can, I know people can identify with this even if they're not paying attention. So, success is dangerous too.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Um, where do we go from here? I guess if we were to have a theme for this, what's your what do you want the audience to think about when they reflect on this conversation later?
What I want the audience to think about is I really just want them to get so curious about themselves. What aspects are no longer serving them? What situations, what things are they saying yes to that they really want to say no to? And why are you saying yes to them? Get curious and start asking questions and start just really being truthful with yourself. We can't change unless we're honest with ourselves. And that's the first step.
Where can people follow you on Instagram?
It is I am Megan Anderson. It's also my website page if you want to go there. It's also Facebook. So just I am Megan Anderson. That's where you'll find me.
Look out for the book, Limitless, or
Yes.
follow Megan. Thank you so much for coming on this episode. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on your book when you get Walden, because that'll be huge
Mhm.
for you, I know. And yeah, you're always welcome back. We will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Please leave us a review, follow Megan, and we will see you very soon. Thanks again.